Hello and welcome. My name is Paweł Kaczmarek, and on behalf of Rebel Publishing, I would like to tell you today about a game called Blossoms. Now, Blossoms is a two-player game that was published in Poland by Rebel Publishing, now hoping to make waves all over the world with different language versions. Now, first let me get into a bit of a story about how this game came to be, because this is quite a unique story. Now, every now and again, the Rebel, the original Polish publisher of the game, hosts this series of events called Rebelatorium. Now, in Polish, the word Rebelatorium is what you get when you combine the word rebel, the name of the publisher, with the Polish word for laboratory. So basically, if you were to be as poetic in English, you would have to call it rebelatory. Something like that. I hope I'm not butchering it too much for you. Now, the idea behind that event is to get together a group of people interested in designing and publishing board games. Now, during those 3-4 day events, they get a chance to listen, talk to, and spend time with professionals from the industry from all over Poland. Now, I'm talking about board game publishers, I'm talking about board game designers. Now, during their time at Rebelatorium, those people get a chance to sit in groups and try to come up with their own ideas for board games and card games. And on one particular occasion, a group of talented individuals by the names of, and let me use the cheat sheet right here, Przemysław Fornal, Kajetan Kusina, Mateusz Pitulski, Kamil Rogowski. Those four gentlemen decided to sit together and came up with a game that will later become known as Blossoms, the game that I have right here in front of you. So, nobody ever really suspected. Well, they did suspect, but they didn't. I think it came as quite a surprise that a game that was invented during their time in the Rebelatorium became a reality so quickly. So, congratulations to you guys, because that's quite an achievement. And now I want to tell you a little bit about the game. First, obviously, let's talk about how the game plays. Okay, so let's begin with setting up the game. Now, what happens at the beginning of the game is you shuffle all the cards and put them in a face-down deck nearby. Then each player picks a color and receives 3 special action tokens in that color. Then you take the 4 plant pots and you put them in a row like so in the middle of the playing area, making sure they are showing the action symbol side up. So you don't put it like so, face down, you put them face up so everybody can see the type of action that those pots can allow you to perform. We're gonna go over these actions a bit later. Then you take 1 card from the deck and put it in above each of the plant pots. Now, if it so happens that you were to draw a duplicate, a copy of a card you already have somewhere in another plant pot, you have to discard it and then you draw another one. Because at the beginning of the game, each plant pot has to have a different flower card above it. After you've done that, you can shuffle the discarded card or cards back into this deck. Of course, shuffle better than I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to move along quite quickly so we can get the gist of the game. After you've done that, you take 1 card at random from the top of the deck and you discard it into the box. This card will not take place in this game. Finally, each player draws a starting hand of 2 cards, and this is their starting hand, the hand that they're gonna begin with. Now, how does the game work? Well, the game works in a series of turns. Each player takes their turn. Now, on their turn, the player has to begin with the growth action. The growth action means that you take a card from the top of the deck, you reveal it, and you add it to an appropriate plant pot. Now, how does that work specifically? If you draw a card and there already is a card of that type somewhere above one of the plant pots, you take that card and you add it above the plant pot and you slide it slightly towards the top, above the top of the card or cards that is already there. You cover the petals and you make the stem longer. So you basically cover the cards like so. Now please bear in mind that a flower cannot be longer than 6 cards. It cannot be higher than 6 cards. So if you were to draw a 7th card for this specific type of flower, you would have to discard all 7 of those cards, and that because that flower simply outgrew and is now dead. So that's one option when you perform the growth action. You take one card and you add it to a flower that is already there. Now a second option is you draw a flower that does not have that is not planted in any of the plant pots. But if there is an empty plant pot, you can simply add it there and simply start growing a new flower. Now if you draw a card and there is no such flower anywhere above any of the plant pots, you have to discard it and your turn ends immediately. This thing is called bad luck. You just had bad luck and you simply cannot continue your turn. Now the way your turn works is you have to begin with this action. You have to begin with the growth action. But please bear in mind, you can take and perform the growth action as many times in your turn as you want or can. Now please remember this. Now aside from that, you obviously can perform other actions. Some of those actions may be performed only once and will cause you to end your turn. But let's go over those actions now. So apart from the growth action, which as I said, can be repeated and performed over and over again during your turn as long as you want to, you can perform a plant action. A plant action is when you take a card from your hand, a flower card, and you add it to a plant pot that already has that type of flower above it. So in this case, for example, I would add this flower here. Again, covering the petals and showing the stem growing longer. Now remember about the 6 cards limit. No plant pot can have a flower longer than 6 cards. Now, what is important to note here is that you do not automatically refill your hand. In order to refill your hand, you have to perform a special action, which I will describe later on. Another possible action is cutting. You cut a flower down. Now what that means is that you take a flower, any of the flower that is at least 2 cards long, that has at least already 2 cards in it. For example, this one has 3 cards. You take that flower and you put it in front of you. Now this is going to be the beginning of your collection of flowers. You leave this plant pot empty, you do not refill it, and also when you perform this action, cutting the flower, you end your turn immediately. Bear in mind, every set that you're gonna have in front of you will be scored towards the end of the game. What you must remember is that you cannot join sets. For example, if you had another rose somewhere down the line and you were to cut that as well, you cannot join it, attach it to this rose to make a longer flower. No, you can have different sets of the same type of flower, but you can never combine 2 sets into a single set. You'll be collecting those sets in front of you to be scored towards the end of the game. Now let's go over those special action tokens. What happens is that once per turn, but after the initial obligatory growth action, you can take your special action token and put it on any of the plant pots. Now at the beginning of your next turn, you take this special action token and you remove it and you put it in the box. It will not be used in the same game again. Now this has 2 consequences. First of all, from this point forward, in this turn at least, until the beginning of your next turn, this plant pot is safe, is secure. No other player can cut it besides you. Second thing that happens is that during the turn at the beginning of which you removed that token, you can perform that plant pot's action. As you can see, we have 4 plant pots. Each of them represents a different action. For example, this rake allows you to take 3 cards from the top of the deck, take a look at them, and then arrange them in any order you wish and return them to the top of the deck. This watering can allows you to take a flower card from your hand and add it to any of the flowers on the table. Now it doesn't have to be the same type of flower. That's the whole thing here. You add it at the very bottom of the pile. Now this is not the same type of flower, but now because of that action, it counts as this type of flower, making this flower taller. And remember also, the 6 card limit still applies. Now, what does this do? Fence. Now, remember the bad luck I told you about, when one of the flowers has already 6 cards in it and you draw a 7th card, then you have to basically make this flower die and you remove it from the game. Well, this action allows you to ignore bad luck once. So, if you were to have a token on this plant pot, then remove it at the beginning of your turn, then you were to perform a growth action and you would reach bad luck, a bad luck would happen to you, then you can ignore it thanks to this action. Finally, Pruner allows you to draw a card from the top of the deck and add it to your hand without showing it to your opponent. Now the game ends when the last card is drawn from the deck. Now if the player who drew that card was the starting player, then that player can still perform his or her turn, and then their opponent can also perform a turn, this time obviously skipping the obligatory growth action. So they still can plant or they still can cut. Now, what happens after that? What happens after that is you score your cards, your sets of flowers. First of all, you take a look at each set and you score it separately, and then you score the whatever amount of different flowers you have in front of you. In order to help you with that, you have this helpful scoring card in front of you to be able to use it. Now, so like I said, first you score each set individually. So we take a look at how many cards we have in a set, and then we receive that many points. So for example, in here we have a set of 3 cards, which gives me 3 points, 4 cards, which gives me 6 points, 2 cards, which only gives me 1 point, and 3 cards, which again gives me 3 points. Then I look at how many different flowers I have. So I have the roses. The roses are a double for me, so I have 3 different flowers. Now having 3 different flowers means I get an additional 3 points. You add those points together, and whoever has the most points win. Now there are other variants you can use in order to make the game a bit different. First of all, if you want to play with children, you can cover those plant pots, put them face down, and on this game, when playing for example with children, that makes the game a bit easier. You do not use your special actions. You just plant the cards, the flowers, and you make them grow, and you grow them and then you cut them. That's it. Another way is, for example, to play 3 games, because the games are rather quick, so you can play 3 games, and whoever has the fewer points from the previous game begins the next game, and the winner after the 3rd game is the final winner of the game, basically. You can also try and play the game with 3 players. In that case, you would hand 2 special action tokens, 1 of each type, to each player. Another version is the advanced version, which is where you play your turn normally, but you can still perform the growth action, remember, as many times as you want, but you do not have to perform it as the first action of your turn. So as you can see, this game is quite simple. Now, it's designed for 2 players, apart from that 3-player variant. It's designed for people ages 8 and up, and also is supposed to take 20 minutes. Now, I want to pay special attention to the artwork, because the brilliant artist Bartłomiej Kordowski really outdid himself by making sure that the artwork we have in this game, I know there aren't a lot of illustrations in this game, but the ones we have are vibrant and just spring to life and make this game visually pop, which is exactly what is needed with this type of theme, with this type of game. Now, who is this game best suited for? Well, as you probably can tell already from watching the rules themselves, the game has a strong push your luck element to it. Now, push your luck, as we know, usually in games, it brings about a lot of emotions, a lot of tension. Now, I gotta say that for a game this size, this magnitude, the push your luck aspect, together with all the accompanying emotions and tensions, mixes quite well with the very positive and very sunny, very warm, feely type theme of planting and collecting and cutting flowers. Now it mixes quite well. This game is also designed for people who like short, test gameplay. This is not a long game. The variant where it suggests to play 3 games in a row, even that doesn't take really long. And if you become experienced, a single gameplay doesn't even have to last 20 minutes. It can last a bit shorter than that. It is also simple enough to be able to, that you'll be able to teach it to new players, to people who are new to our hobby. So this can be a good gateway game, trying to bring some fresh blood into our hobby. And yet it offers enough of the brain muscle exercise that may be required by some of the more experienced players. So it's a good game to be played by an experienced player with a fresh player, with a new player to the hobby. So these are the type of players that this game is aimed at. And if what you saw here, if you consider yourself one of those types, and if what you saw here seems like something you might enjoy, please be sure to check out more details about this game, where you can get it, because like I said, this game is starting to and hopefully making waves all over the globe, not just in Poland where it originated from. That's pretty much sorry, that's pretty much all I have to say about the game. And as I said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to post them in the comments below, and either me or someone from the publisher will be more than happy to answer them for you. And aside from that, I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and I hope I see you soon. Bye-bye!